I promise you, however good you think this card is, even if you think it's good, it is better than that. And I'm going to show you. Alright, TonyScapone here, and this is Paradoxical Outcome in Legacy. This is actually the previous list. This is not the list that I'll be playing with today, but I wanted to show you kind of the changes that we've gone from. It's very close. So you'll notice this list has 1 Chrome Mox. Notable things are 1 Chrome Mox, 2 keys, right? 3 Emery. There are a total of 16 blue cards. There's a main deck repeal, and there's only 1 Thought Monitor, as well as 14 lands. We move over to the list I played tonight. 14 lands plus a Seagate. There are 2 more blue cards, total of 18 blue cards. There is no Chrome Mox, there is no repeal, there is only 1 key. We've gone up to a 2nd Thought Monitor, and we've gone back up to a 4th Emery, as well as adding a 15th land in Seagate Restoration. This was to help improve blue count, maybe a little more land, while still having a card that is both action and pitchable to Force of Will. This card pulls a lot of weight. Sideboard previously had a Fire and Ice and 2 Surgical. Sideboard is the same, except we have no Fire and Ice. Instead, we have the repeal that used to be in the main deck. And we have taken 1 Surgical out and added a Soul Guide Lantern. These changes were not easy to make. I had a very successful list that was 52-12 before. I mean, it just obviously there's this league, but it's a different list. I don't know. I definitely lost a few matches. I think I 3-2'd on stream. So it got a little bit worse than that, but still, generally speaking, if not actually, is very close to a 4-1 record, like 4-1 ratio, over the course of like almost 70 matches. So that certainly proved the list to be working and being very good. However, after having played that many matches, I'm able to identify some of the issues. Some of the issues we knew were just inherent in the list, and it wasn't a matter of are these issues, it was a matter of what impact are they having, how heavy is that impact. So, trying to gauge and identify what I want to do with that meter, how much do I want to tweak it, if at all. Things like blue card count, knowing that we're low on blue cards, but feeling as though it was important to the construction of the deck. But I do believe I found a way by identifying that Chrome Mox is probably not good enough, but I wanted to make sure, because it has its spots, right? It is specifically very good with Paradoxical Outcome, but there are many obvious reasons why it is not ideal. So between that and getting rid of the 2nd key, which was a hard thing to do, but I was sick of drawing a 2nd key. Or I mean, just drawing a key. It's so often just having a key and it not doing anything. Most of the time, we were getting useful keys when we needed them through Urza Saga. It's gonna suck if we flip it with Emery and then we can't get an Emery back online. It's gonna suck if they prismatic ending the key. But guess what? we're gonna flip it less often when there's only one, and it's gonna get hit less often when there's only one. It's gonna get discarded less often when it's only one. Most of the time, considering there's only one, it's gonna be gotten when we need it off of Urza's Saga. And when we can't, or when we don't have it, it's not the end of the world. It is not, an integral part of the deck's construction. It is a major piece of the deck, but it's not. If we lose it, it's not like we lose. Okay, even like our win con, if we lose that, it's not like we lose. So sure, Emery has some issues in that you do feel sometimes obligated that you have to get her back online. When you flip over a reservoir, when you flip over a spell bomb in a matchup that you want spell bomb or whatever it is, which is actually one of the reasons why I've gone back up to 4. She gets killed or countered so often that I would like to play the max. So I can just Emery, she dies, re-Emery again, because sometimes we flip over important stuff and we want to get her back out there, so I like having 4. 3 was a fine number. I do think 3 is a fine number for this card, but I also think the card is probably just too good, right? And it's one of our consistent early plays that we can make. It is blue, so we were able to increase our blue count by playing another one. But yeah, there was a time way back when, when we were playing a bunch of Sea Gates and not Sea the Synod, but more keys and a Basalt Monolith, that I had a second thought monitor, and it felt clunky at one point. And I had always gone back to 1 or none. Actually, for a while, we were on none. But then once coming back to Baubles and Seat of the Synod, we came back to a thought monitor. But considering we have both Baubles and Seat of the Synod, we can support a second one, or at least it feels as though we can. It's felt good so far. It's probably the most obvious card to add if we want to increase our action. The 4th Emery, the Seagate, and the second Thought Monitor. I was playing 4PO again for a while, but honestly, I think the only time 4PO is appropriate is if we're running a bunch of keys and a Basalt Monolith, like when we used to run 4 keys and a Basalt Monolith, so we'd have 5 monoliths and 4 keys. But that had its own problems that I really didn't like, and that put its own pressure on the blue count, which is what moved us into playing a bunch of C8s to make up for it anyways. So I think we need seat. I think I like the baubles, the seat, the thought monitor. This all makes sense to me and has felt smooth. And as much as Fire and Ice is nice against Bowmasters sometimes, honestly, we had a fine enough time even before we added Pyrite Spellbomb. Like, we were competitive against them when we weren't playing Spellbomb and we were running 4 Seagate Restorations. We were just damaging ourselves so much and still winning a lot of matches. Then, coming off the Seagates, that made it better. Spellbomb made it better. And Fire and Ice is nice, but most of the time it's Spellbomb. I gotta tell you, most of the time we are killing it with Spellbomb, or we're forcing it, or we're playing one ring, getting some card advantage, passing, untapping, taking a little damage, playing another one ring. There's ways we get through it. I don't think we necessarily need Fire and Ice. Fire and Ice was, in a lot of ways, just not good enough. And so I'm happy to replace that slot just with the repeal. I really want this Soul Guide Lantern. I got just trashed by one of my locals. They were playing 8-cast and I was playing this deck, and I basically lost because they had Soul Guide and I didn't. And their Emery was just better than mine. I have since beat 8-cast a number of times. It's really nice also, by the way, only having 2 1-drops in our deck. I know we could play Chalice. I know. We don't need to, though. We really don't. Any of the combo decks that we want Chalice for, you just don't need it. You just don't need it. You could even argue, like, with PO, because you can play it to mess up your opponent, then end step you can bounce it with PO. It's kind of cute, huh? Well, another thing that playing the Seagate does for us is it does add yet another non-artifact blue source. So now we have Island, Otawara, Seagate. We have 3 naturally in the main deck. And then we go up to 5 when we bring in the 2 Otawaras. So then we wind up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 and 5 is pretty good. 5 sources that can cast, and 5 cards that can remove a Null Rod, Collect Roof, whatever. But yeah, the Soul Guide, really helpful for 8 cast, obviously, and really helpful for lands. Really want this card against lands. So, as I'm sure you already know by the title and the thumbnail, this is the Perfect League, a 5-0-10-0. We're not playing it live here, because I did already play it, but since it was a 5-0-10-0, I'm sure people want to see it. So, I have gone through the matches and talked over the Moto recording client. So I'm going to shoot you on over to that footage right now. See y'all there. Alright, so round 1 we played against Zumikin 1985, and we have an absolute banger of a hand. They play a Delta and pass. We're going to play out these baubles and just start casting these thought casts. This is an unbelievable hand where we just get to cast 1 mana draw 2s, almost ancestrals. We cast 1, draw Saga and Opal, cast another, PO and Manifold Key, play another bauble, and fire these baubles off and draw our extra cards. Passing on over to their turn, and they fetch Rainstorm on the end step. We draw our cards, we get an Emery, Ancient Tomb, not the greatest. They play a land and pass. We untap, play Saga, play Bauble, play Key, and now we can play a 1 mana Thoughtcast once again. Clearly they have Bowmasters, which is okay. Should be able to outmuscle it. At least that was my thinking. And we take a couple of hits. Feels bad, but not the end of the world. We play Emery. It does not get dazed, surprisingly. Pass it over. They attack with their 3/3. We untap. We draw Force of Will. Not bad, not bad. Play a Bauble with Emery. And I just pass it over. We could have done some stuff here, but figure we got Spellbomb going. Well, we don't want to be drawing a bunch of cards, basically. So they reanimated our Emery so that they could get more food so that they could reanimate something else. They had double reanimate, so they reanimated a Troll, but it's all good, because now they're at 7. And we have a Manifold Key. And we're going to have a big old unblockable construct. And we have Force of Will to back it up. And they only have 3 cards, now 2 cards. So feeling pretty good about this. So we make our Deuter. Make another Deuter. Get a Spellbomb. Play a land. Make our dude unblockable. And that is game 1. Let's get to game 2. In game 2 we have a reasonable hand as well. It's not quite as good. It's a little bit awkward that we have just these petals as colored sources, but there are things to like about it. We have Pyroblast, we have Force of Will, we have a Thoughtcast, we have a redraw, and we drew a basic island, which is quite a good draw, if I'm being completely honest. Now, I didn't want to spew and just cast Thoughtcast. At the same time, and I don't want to play out all my artifacts, as I don't want to just get needlessly melted down. But if they play a Null Rod, I want to be able to force it and have Pyroblast backup. And then, if all else fails, I can at least use my Bauble. So those are out there, and that's why. They're going to shock in a Watery Grave. So this is, as we saw in Game 1, actual Death Shadow, not just like mid-range blue-black scam, which we're actually seeing a lot more of these days. Alright, Spellbomb. Again, not like a terrible draw. We'll take it. It's another artifact so that we can cast the Thoughtcast for 1 mana. Do not find any more blue sources, but that's okay. We'll just pass it over. At this point, we've drawn an extra card, so if we do wind up spewing with a petal, that's fine. So here we are in another spot, as we saw, where I have the One Ring with Pyroblast backup. But, again, we're not playing around Daze. We're playing into Daze. Well, we're playing around it, but through no help with Pyroblast. So we're basically not... I think we can do better. I think we can have double protected and play around Pyroblast. At least that's what I wanted to wait for. There's no pressure on the other side of the table, so we don't have to make a decision. And a 1-mana Thoughtcast is pretty good, so we go ahead and do that, and I just pass it over. We don't hit a land, which we wanted, but that's not a big deal. We found another Force of Will, another Thoughtcast, so we can just do that again next turn. And we do expect to have to use one of these petals for this Spell Bomb. Unless we find an opal, which is what we really want to find, but we haven't yet. That's okay. So we cast another Thoughtcast, and again find not much help. I figured it is time to crack these baubles, because now we're going to be drawing 3 cards, so we'll at least find another artifact. We really need some more affinity. And we did, and we found another land. So this is going to be our cue to go, because we have One Ring with ample protection, let me tell you. So we get to drop a Saga, play another Petal, play One Ring. So now we have One Ring with double Force plus Pyroblast plus a Spell Bomb activation for Bowmaster. They Force, we Pyroblast, it resolves. Pretty good stuff. And they have no Bowmasters. Honestly, they had kind of an anemic hand. I'm surprised that my opponent just didn't really do anything this game. Even so much so that I was considering forcing that Brainstorm, and it may have actually been correct. But I don't know. It feels tough countering cantrips. Sometimes cantrips just don't find what they want anyways. And here's the Bowmaster. We let it go because we have Spell Bomb. We take the 1 hit, we use the Spell Bomb. We move along. Then we can play a Monolith, play another Petal, and just make some ginormous constructs while still holding these Force of Wills. A Ponder, which is fine. Another Ponder, also fine. We're coming in for 2. Likely a Snuff out here, yep. Because even if I counter it now, at least they have a 6/6. I will trade, because we're just going to win on our turn anyways. Counter their Bowmasters, trade with the thing. Untap, take some damage, and we will draw 3. And they just don't want to play anymore, which is understandable. I do not blame them. So that's round 1. See you in round 2. All right, here we are in round 2 against Pulpunte, who is pretty much always on Sneak and Show. And our hand is reasonable. It is a turn 2 ring. We have multiple redraws. And now we can drop an Emery. So we are going to do exactly that. Use our baubles. Get to see an Emrakul and Drifter. Draw Petal and Thoughtcast. And our opponent just plays a land and passes over. Sorry, the client was going a little fast there. But yeah, they've done nothing. They just went land drop, go, land drop, go. And we played out some of our stuff. And now we have an active Emery. And we get to Thoughtcast for 1 mana. Run to another land and a Spell Bomb. We haven't hit any forces, or even blue cards for that matter, which is a little bit concerning. But at least we have this 1 ring. That resolves. The opponent did mulligan to 6, by the way. And they were on the play. Alright, so we draw into more baubles. That's the thing about having a low blue count and a lot of baubles, is you do the benefit of bobbling a ton, just drawing a bunch of extra cards so you can get to your forces faster. It's not perfect, of course. If you need a blue card now and you're on your opponent's turn drawing a card and you draw a bauble instead of a blue card, it's not like a Street Wraith where you can just cycle it. You do have to go through a turn cycle to see that next card. But it does help. There is some alleviation. So we draw from the ring, draw a bunch of stuff here, we'll play Reservoir. To my surprise, I think they wind up countering this. They do. I don't know if they just forgot that we have Emery in play or what, but I was fine with that. Now we just get to drop another bauble, drop the other 2 from our hand, and just keep things moving here. We draw Opal, 1 ring Petal, and they just don't want to play anymore. I guess looking at the cards that we saw, they didn't, and they missed the land drop. So, and they know we're about to draw another 3, 4 cards. Yeah, graphic. Move over to game 2. And our opener is okay. I decide to keep it. I figure we're probably going to wind up, before they try to go off, having a blue card with force. And there's a good chance they have a reactive hand anyways, and we have time. Because otherwise the hand is fine. We have a sustainable route to the One Ring. We have a key so that we draw extra cards when we get there. We can make some Saga tokens to apply some pressure. And we have a redraw anyways, a blue source. A lot to like about this hand. Though it is, not really on the higher end. Stability isn't always necessarily what you want against what can be a fast combo deck. However, they aren't usually. So, as such, we take that chance. And, sorry, going a little bit fast here. We drew for turn Pyroblast, and then Bobble drew into another Bobble. They just played another land and passed, and then our next draw step was a Force Negation, number 2. So we do have that blue card that we were kind of hoping to draw into. And another redraw, and pass it over. We draw a Reservoir. And they draw a Grid, which was a tough choice, but I wound up countering it. Sometimes what you can do is let it resolve, and then just hold up your force and hold up 3 mana. But there's a lot of stuff that I want to do with my mana. So, we make a token. And as we often do, or as we often don't, make another token. We just make the one, because we just have so much to do with our mana here. So we get to play the One Ring with backup. Go ahead and back it up, and I believe, yep, that's the moment where they say, "Get me out of here, please." And they're gone. So we are 2-0. We'll see you in round 3. Alright, round 3 against Tarksar 1990. They're typically a Green Cloudpost player, which is what we see here. Actually, we see Wara, but I don't think it's actually blue. They do have Yorion, which is interesting. So there's probably some blue elements, I don't know. But we have a pretty reasonable hand here. We can get a turn 1 Emery going. We have not a fast route to the One Ring, but a route. And they have Needle, and I'm actually kind of happy that they name Emery. I mean, they kind of have to. They'd get buried by Emery anyways if they don't name it, but obviously having the One Ring, it's nice that their Needle is not on the One Ring. And I just play and cycle our Spell Bomb. And we find another key, we have another redraw, and I guess we're just getting in for 1 since Needle's on Emery. And Engine means we're going to be going infinite pretty soon. Now we get to cast the One Ring. It's in there, we draw. Generally speaking, not a very difficult matchup for us, but we can have some slower situations that might prove to be difficult. Alright, so we draw. Now we have a Force. And I'm worried about Beseiju here, because we can't actually counter that, but it looks like they don't have it, and we get to just go off with Engine and One Ring, and draw our whole deck. Draw, play a thing, untap, draw, untap, draw. We draw the whole deck. Well, almost the whole thing. We have Reservoir, so we go ahead and play it. I'm just going to speed it up here. Looks like we play a Monolith. We play Reservoir. Now they actually have something. They go for Crop Rot. We force. They Veil. We force back. I don't know why you'd wait all this time to do all this. I would imagine they're going for, I mean, maybe because they want us to draw our whole deck and then lose from decking. Because they want to be able to play Glacial Chasm. I would imagine they have it in their deck. But we put a stop to that. And we got them. Head over to game 2 here. And we have a Force, a couple of lands, one of which is a Saga, 2 redraws, and a Petal. So, I mean, it's not a perfect hand, but we keep these. And so I do. They go Forest, go Bobble, Bobble. I'm going to play Otawara. I wasn't so here's the thing. I played out Petal. It does play into Force of Vigor to a degree, but I do want to play around Mindbreak Trap as much as I can, so I play it out. I mean, they're not going to Force of Vigor here. They're not going to just go for hitting one Petal. And if they do go for it, we can force it. But if they don't have it, they don't have to force it. And basically what I'm saying is that we can play around Mindbreak Trap to an extent. We can't play around Force of Vigor. We can somewhat. Use the baubles. They see a Cloudpost and a Caracas. I'm glad I boarded out. I should go through the boarding for these. Shoot. Well, I'll try doing it a bit more from now on. I took Emery's out, all 4 of them. I figure they have reliable access to Caracas and Bajukabog, so forget that. It looks like it brought in Haywire Might, Raven Form, Repeal, and Soul Guide Lantern. Trying to think why I brought in Soul Guide Lantern. Probably because we had nothing that I wanted to bring in. So it draws a card. Alright, so we draw from our bauble cards. We got Mox Opal, Raven Form. We play Cloudpost. Let me draw PO. So our hand is a little bit unfinished, I must say. They play another Cloudpost. And I believe they force a Vigor here. They do. They do force it. And then they Veil. Brutal, so force the force back. Or force again. And then, what do we go and do? Well, nothing yet. I thought we wound up with the mana to cast the One Ring, honestly, but not quite yet. I only have 3 cards. I decided to make a token. You might as well apply some pressure. We'll have enough mana to cast the One Ring either way. Then we can play Opal out, cast that One Ring, start drawing cards. Pass it over, they pass it right back. We draw a Might, PO, and Grim Monolith. And I decide to play the Monolith and the Might, and then play out another Opal. I mean, it's a little bit of a spew, but we're drawing so many cards. I just want to actually get through them with the repeatable mana sources. And they wind up with a trap that they use on our Thought Monitor, which is really not a big deal. We still just have so much gas coming here. In fact, they can't touch the One Ring. Even if they wind up with a Needle, we had it covered with the Haywire Might. So that's round 3. See you in round 4. Alright, here we are, round 4 against Death Wrong Shaman. I believe is on lands. And I wasn't really aware of that, but we do keep this hand, it's fine. Against a lot of stuff. Draw another Seed of the Synod. And we get to turn 1 Emery. After they just Bajuka-bogged, which is pretty sweet. Ship that over. I believe we get Punishing Fired here. Here's the Mox Diamond and P-Fire. So Emery's down. And we draw another Seed of the Synod. Not the worst, I guess, but not great. OP honestly doesn't have much going on. They're falling a little bit flat over there. We draw Petal, which is an excellent draw. And now we get to play Seed of the Synod, play a 2-mana Thought Monitor. Draw 2 cards, play Bauble. Nice little redraw. They get to make a guy. We draw into another Emery, which I'm not really interested in. They make a token. And a Shadow Spear, which was pretty surprising to me. But I guess they don't really know what's happening over here. I guess at this point, we have Opal, Saga, Spellbomb, Opal, Emery, Bauble, Thought Monitor. Yeah, we just look like 8-cast, actually. So they don't know to get Pithing Needle for, like, the One Ring, or I guess it would just basically be the One Ring. So they figure, alright, 8-cast, they fight on the ground, so the bigger I can get my constructs with Shadow Spear. That's why they got Shadow Spear, so that makes sense. Little do they know what I have in store for them. And we draw another Thought Monitor, which is not bad. Go ahead and play Aetherflux Reservoir, which probably comes as a surprise to them. And now we get annoying Punishing Fire triggers every time we gain life. But we got a 1-mana Thought Monitor now. We need to play Bobble. And they have Loam in hand. We draw a PO. They Loam Saga and Thespian Stage, play a Saga. And they have a Needle in hand. And they name Aetherflux Reservoir. Which, I mean, again, I'm not sure if they know we're a ring deck. But one ring is definitely the call. And we play Monolith. And now we're just going to wind up with some PO stuff going on here. Just bounce everything but the Reservoir. Draw a 6. We have another PO. Now we can play all this stuff out, just gaining exponential life here up to 31, up to 37. PO, bouncer stuff again. 52, 61. Thoughtcast, draw 2 more. 82 life, 94 life, 107 life, 121 life. Pretty sweet. Discard a couple lands. I think I forgot to bobble, but it's okay. They wasteland us. It's not seem like wasteland is enough here. We take 12, no big deal. Not a problem. Draw some more. And that looks like we've drawn our deck, so we'll be able to find Otawara, wind up bouncing the Pithing Needle, and zapping them. See, bobble. How much life can we gain? 17. Draw. We played a 1 ring. Play a monolith. Draw 3. 135 life. 143. 152. We bounce their needle, and they scoop. On to game 2. We are obviously on the draw. I mulligan the first hand. I wish I could back it up, sorry. It really wouldn't take much for them to improve this replay thing. But our second hand is very good. We've got Thoughtcast, Artifacts, couple of Petals, our choice of Force of Will or Force of Negation. We draw PO, which is not the greatest. I think I wind up casting this Thoughtcast. Yeah. The problem with holding Thoughtcast there is all it takes is a Wasteland, and then you're just really in the dirt. So you might as well basically cycle through. And they have a Null Rod. So they did have a Wasteland, but they tapped it instead of using it because they had Null Rod, and we had the Force of Will. And we get to play a 1 ring, and drew into the blue card for Force of Negation, and they play Life from the Loam. Just consecutive, outrageously clean plays. So perfect. And the rest is obviously going to be gravy at this point. We got the 1 ring going. I mean, it's possible they, play a Pithing Needle or something. We do have the Otawara, though, which is nice. And they just play a land and pass. So we've definitely turned the corner here. Just to be able to double force them and play a 1 ring and sustain a Wasteland is pretty sweet. Obviously, we're just popping off at this point, just playing all sorts of stuff, drawing a bunch of cards every turn, and they are floundering. Yep. And they've got a Dark Depths, and we are drawing a bajillion cards. Now, it's kind of crazy what happens in this match. I make a huge error, a very awkward, embarrassing error. We draw a bajillion cards, playing a bunch of stuff, everything's all good. Playing a bunch of stuff. We got a Soul Guide Lantern going. Pop off, get rid of that Wasteland. And I got a big old PO. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? 3, 6, 8 card PO. And what do? They crop rot. What do? I force a negation. What do? They trap me! So both get hit. Now my PO is gone. And their crop rot is getting through. Blown out. And now, this is where I make the huge mistake. I, for whatever reason, had in my, or not for whatever reason, initially I had in my head that, okay, we're winning here, Their crop rot is probably getting Glacial Chasm, because last time they tried to do that, they let us draw our whole deck first, and this time they want to get it in before they die. So, but then this whole stack happened, and then in response to the trap, what do? And the second I did it, I went, oh shit. I repeal my Mox Opal, which leaves me dead to just Merit Liege, which is the type of sloppy play that one might make when they are massively ahead, just kind of not thinking. I paused for a little bit, thought maybe I have a way to not die, and said, no, I guess not. Almost scooped, and then said, wait a second, we got a bird. So, no worries, let's make a bird. One shy of making the One Ring, but just enough mana to Raven form one of our artifacts to make a 1/1 flyer, and they have an Exploration on top. And then our other bauble revealed a Fluster, and they have no blue mana. They're drawing Exploration, so they have one unknown. It is unlikely to be a problem here. And we even draw into a Force, just in case. And we get to chump. And then we get to truly go off and finish them. We play the engine, untap, draw, play the One Ring, so we only have 6 cards in our deck. Draw 1, not Aether Flux. Bounce that Merit Liege out of spite. Draw 2, there it is. No use wasting any more time. Play it out and they scoop it up. That's round 4. I will see you in the final round. Alright, the final round against Martyr 1207. Looks like we've won the die roll. And we opened up a reasonable hand, a little bit slow, but somewhat steady. You can just play a Spellbomb and pass. And opponent saves their Wasteland, interestingly enough. So obviously our Saga is about to get hit. And it does, which is certainly a feel bad. We play the Emery, of which gets forced. And they play a land. Pass. And we got nothing going on. End step of Brainstorm. I was holding on to the Spellbomb because if we draw an Ancient Tomb or a Seed of the Synod, we can cast Thoughtcast. But we wind up getting Wastelanded here, so I do respond. At this point, I think it's appropriate to draw a card off of this so that we can just find more lands. We do find a Saga. We're still pretty land light. We do have a Force of Will. And at least we get to put some material on board and they daze it. Hardcast the daze. I guess so that we're less likely to be able to make use of like an Opal. This artifact count is part of a mana base for this deck. I do draw land, which is good. I do get Opal, and I'm ready to fight over this Grim Monolith. If they have a Force plus Daze or double Daze, we are in trouble, but they have already used the Force and a Daze, and the Monolith resolves. And it looks like they do have a Force, and we are going to Force back. And the One Ring is in there. We draw our other large, awkward one of artifact. But that's okay. We got a One Ring going. We're at 19. They have no threats on board. They only have 2 cards. We are firmly in the driver's seat here. Play a land after playing Emery. Whole bunch of goodies. Fatal push the Emery. And we draw a bajillion cards. Play a bauble out there. And I figured they only have 1 card. Actually, no, I'm sorry, we bobbled and saw that they only have Grief left. So I want to get our win con out there before it gets discarded, so that we're not reliant on. I mean, we could probably just kill them with construct tokens, but might as well get it in. So they've had enough. And this is the final round. This is for the perfect league. And we've got an acceptable hand here. This is a turn 1 Thoughtcast for 2 mana without spewing. So we use Opal and Saga. Cast the Thoughtcast, we hit another land, another bauble. We use those baubles. Draw into a monolith and another land. So now wastelands are just not going to be good for them. What they do, they reanimated a troll. We drew some pretty good cards here, but we do just pass it over. I didn't want to, like, we could have played monolith and then played the One Ring. And then you could say we have protection, like we'd have protection against Force of Will, but we'd already be playing around Daze, and Pyroblast's not helping against Daze, right? So I'd rather be able to beat Force and Daze, and just wait. Sure, if they discard us, I mean it's not great, but we have gas. We have Thought Gas and the One Ring. We got our Saga popping off. I just wasn't really willing to forego Saga tokens. Maybe if we could have played Saga, I would have done that, but then we couldn't have tapped Opal. We'd be spewing our Petal. I guess we could have played Saga and Monolith, but still, I think it's better to just actually make use of these constructs, stagger the Saga, and just go off harder next turn instead. Take 6. That's fine. They're not playing red. They don't have lightning bolts. We were at 20, so 14 is not huge. And we can make a dude. And no need to make another dude, because we have plenty of stuff we want to do with their mana. So now we can hold up Pyrite Spellbomb, play another land, and make the same play we considered making last turn, except this time we have Pyroblast for Force of Will, and we're playing around Daze, and we have Spellbomb up for Bowmasters. So they force, we Pyroblast back, and I do have and cast Bowmasters. Now we wait until... I waited until the One Ring resolved before using the Spellbomb to make sure we're still playing around Daze. And after the fact we can use it, then we can draw cards without triggering a Bowmaster. And we can get in for 5, because we have a One Ring trigger. They play another Bowmaster and a Fatal Push, so they're not making it easy for us. They draw Ancient Tombs and Aetherflux, which aren't particularly helpful. But we got a big old construct to make. We have gone down to 6 here. There is an Orc in play, which is definitely not nothing. They only have 1 card. We get to make a token. We were hoping to draw another artifact so that we can have lethal. So, we thought cast is taking 2 is fine. And we do find it. Find a Lotus Petal that we can put into play, and then we can use the Manifold Key to make this unblockable. And they cast the Sauron's Ransom, trying to find a Fatal Push. And they don't. And they die with us at 1. And that's it. That is the trophy, baby. The perfect league. 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. Looks like we had a match last night at 1:30 a.m. It was a 2-0 as well. So that was the perfect league, and this is the list here. I do think this is a slight improvement. After playing, I think it was like 53, and actually no, I lost some games after that. Somewhere around mid-50s and like 15 or 16. Basically a 4-to-1 ratio. Around there. But after that many matches, I was able to identify some of our weaknesses. Some we already knew about, but just maybe hadn't figured out a way to mitigate them. Didn't know the extent to which things were an issue or not. For instance, a lower blue count. It does come with the territory to an extent with this deck. We do still have a low blue count. But we had 16, which was arguably pretty easy to argue too low. But I did want to see how it functioned, and it functioned well enough. I mean, that is a very, very good record. But if we can do better, we may as well do better, right? So what I have done is increase the blue count by 2. Figured out a way that may be appropriate to make that change. I haven't missed the Chrome Mox too much, but I wanted to give the old college try. Even with a higher blue count, I mean, one of the ways that we found a higher blue count is by removing the Chrome Mox anyways. I do like having one more land that also... I mean, this card just pulls a lot of weight. There's a good reason we ran 4 of it for a while. Seat is just better, which is why you run 4 of that now. But it's a great land to just increase your blue count, your action, your lands, all in one card. I have my eye on the fact that we do not have a repeal anymore, and it is just 1 Otawara for when something rather troublesome is in play. The idea, for me at least, is that it won't come up all that often, right? And on the occasion that it might come up that we would like to have 2 cards that could bounce something. Because sometimes you're going to flip this with Emery, right? Or you're going to have to put it into play. And then as soon as that happens, you know that you have no bounce, and the only removal in your entire deck is Spellbomb, which only deals damage. So there are a lot of things that could be an issue. Chalice. But we have enough ways to just get around it. Like, say Chalice is on 0. If you can find Engine, you have a 1 ring going, you can generate plenty of mana and still go infinite. So I think the construction of the deck is at a certain point where there are a few concepts that are too important and to improve upon that we just don't really have the room for something like a repeal. I don't think it'll ever be terrible, but one of the things I was finding previously was that every now and then we did just kind of run out of gas. And so I did want to increase our action, putting the 4th Emery back in, putting a 2nd Thought Monitor in, having a Seagate Restoration. That's some additional action there and should alleviate that issue. Other than that, I mean, we didn't really get to see Soul Guide shine, but I know from experience that there's a couple of matchups like 8-cast and lands, notably, that I would much rather have this card than a Surgical, where I kind of want to bring some sort of graveyard hate in, but Surgical just doesn't feel worth it. Whereas Soul Guide is more effective against them. We can tutor it with Saga, we can loop it with Emery. Worst case, it draws a card. It's just really solid. But yeah, that's the deck. I intend on making and finishing a sideboard guide with an up-to-date list. I had the previous list for a long time. I started making a sideboard guide before I did finally decide, you know what, we gotta make a couple of changes here. But I am working overtime on this deck to get it ready for Eternal Weekend because I'm playing it at Eternal Weekend, and I know a lot of people also want to as well, so I'd like to get it as prepared as possible for that event, and I will have a sideboard guide finished shortly. You can, however, go sign up on my Patreon and see what I have thus far. I do currently have it available as I go, so right now it's about 40 to 50% done for the previous list. So I'm going to have to go back and change it a little bit, given the changes in the list, and then continue working on it. I hope to be done within the next week or 2. So yeah, check out my Patreon. Obviously, you're already here, but you can check out my Twitch as well. We'll see y'all next time.